Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 189 of McRae Live. Today is Thursday, July the 15th, 2021, 12:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And time travel. I want to talk time travel today on today's show. I want to talk about your favorite time travel movies. The concept of time travel is a fascinating one. And obviously, I'm not a physicist. I'm not I don't know all the nitty gritty details of quantum physics and string theory and the theory of relativity. And, when we want to look at it from a real concrete, objective, scientific point of view, I know a little bit because I have a fascination in it. But of course, when you start, when you take creative liberties and you try to make a movie about time travel, I think you want to abide by the laws of physics as best you can. That makes it much more intriguing. But then there's also hokey and fun time travel films that don't necessarily abide by the laws of physics, take massive creative liberties because it isn't an exact science in the sense of that we know how to do it or whether it's possible. As far as we know, time is linear, and to go back in time, like literally like Back to the Future kind of thing, doesn't appear to be really possible, right now. However, going into the future, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, it was him that did it, right? I think it was. It is possible. We can go into the future. The problem with going into the future is we can't come back. And that's kind of the catch-22, or not the catch-22, but that's the asterisk that, you put, beside it. Hey, we can send you into the future if we can somehow figure out how to get you traveling at the speed of light. We don't have any kind of conventional rocket ship or spaceship or anything like that would do that. But the theory of relativity is, really, if we can travel at the speed of light, and I'm not getting these figures and numbers exact, but for example, right? Say I'm in a spaceship, okay? And I'm traveling at the speed of light across the Milky Way. I'm traveling at the speed of light, and I travel at the speed of light for 20 years, okay? Well, I would have aged 20 years because time slows down the faster you get to the speed of light for the person that is traveling at the speed of light. But everybody on Earth would have died. Maybe like 150 years would have gone by on Earth. Like this, we know to be pretty true. We just can't travel at the speed of light. You know what I mean? But we know this to be true. And I've actually talked about this on my channel. I have this very vague, loose concept idea for a science fiction film. It's kind of science fact in some ways, but in terms of the science of it. But I have this sci-fi idea about how there's like this crew that travels to the galaxy of Andromeda. Those of you that have been watching me for a while probably remember me talking about this. And or I guess they're coming back, or they're on some kind of space mission or something, right? But it's a very serious film, like a la 2001, very serious, right? And they're traveling back, and they can see Earth coming. They can see it. They've aged maybe like 30 years or something like that. So maybe it's a crew like all in their 50s or 60s or something. They left when they were in their like late 20s or something like that. Or maybe 20 years have passed or something, right? And they're approaching Earth. They can see Earth, and they're approaching Earth. But they know in the ship, they know that like 150 years have passed. So everybody they love is dead. What is the world like? Do you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's like, what are we going to come upon? Or I have this idea too, where maybe more time had passed. Like maybe they traveled at the speed of light for a really long period of time, and they're coming back to Earth, and like 1,000 years have passed. I don't know if you know that's possible, because you probably would have died by the time 1,000 years passed. But maybe not. Maybe not. Depends how fast you're going, I guess. But what are you coming in on? Like you see Earth, you have no communication whatsoever because you would have lost it. Like it would have taken like 100 years between messages at some point. You know what I mean? Like it would have been ridiculous. What are you coming on to? What's down there? Just looking at the Earth and going, what's down there? What is Earth like? Are people still down there? Like, what are we coming in on? It's a fascinating concept to me. And that's real shit. Like, that's real, not necessarily, I mean, obviously you would have to take creative liberties somewhere, but the basic concept of traveling into the future, we theorize that we can do it if we can get to as fast as the speed of light, travel for a certain period of time and come back. We just won't be able to go back. Like we can travel into the future, but we can't then go back and pretend like it didn't happen, right? Traveling back in time is not something, as far as I know, that is possible right now, to travel, because time is linear. It keeps moving forward. 10 years ago doesn't exist anymore, right? So again, I don't pretend to know the exact science of it all, but I do know in a very Cliff Notes version, very 101 version, what I'm talking about in a very basic way is correct. And it's fascinating. So I mean, like you and like most of us, I love that concept in time travel movies as well. Now, when you think of time travel movies, you tend to think of the quintessential time travel movie, which is 1985's Back to the Future, right? And I get it. Look, that is, and I'm going to talk about some of my favorite time travel films and then my absolute favorite and why it's my absolute favorite. But Back to the Future is great. You know what I mean? But it's got everything. It's got romance, a little bit of an awkward romance, but it's got romance, it's got comedy, it's got adventure, it's got action, it's got crazy scientists, it's got this teenage, I put it in quotes because obviously Michael J. Fox was well into his 20s at the time. It's got like this young kid and it's got special effects and it's great. And it's just, and the concept is really fun. But Back to the Future is presented not in a serious, like 2001: A Space Odyssey kind of way, right? Like in, really getting deep into the philosophical sort of, questions of what it means and the existence of, even though they add a little bit of that in there with Doc Brown, at its core, it's a adventure film. It's a kids movie, for fuck's sakes. At its core is what I'm saying, right? It's a fun adventure movie and it's a classic and arguably a perfect movie, right? And I love it. It's great. It's definitely one of my favorite time travel time travel movies of all time. But there's so much more going on than just the time travel, right? I mean, again, like action, adventure, romance, intrigue, crazy characters, special effects. I mean, there's so much more that is surrounding it, but it's great and I love it. But I love when a movie takes it seriously in some ways. And there's room for all kinds, right? There's your Back to the Future, and then there's like time travel movies like 2000's Frequency. I thought that was a great movie. I remember seeing that in the movie theater when it came out. That's with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, I think is how you say his name. Jesus. That's how I always remember him. Jesus from Passion of the Christ. I think that's the same guy. That was a great movie. That was a different concept than, of course, Back to the Future. Like, there's so many time travel movies that exist, but when we say time travel, I think people tend to think either going forward or back in time, which obviously makes sense. But there's so many different ways that films have utilized the concept of time travel that it isn't always just about getting into a time machine and going forward or backward. Do you know what I mean? You can do that. That's kind of like, the stereotype. There is a device, whatever it is, a DeLorean, a phone booth, whatever, right? And you get into this device, you get into this machine, and boop, 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 and you go forward or backward in time. But there's so many other ways that films have utilized the concept of time travel. And I thought Frequency from 2000 was a very unique way as well, through the was it a ham radio or whatever it was? That was fascinating, where a son in the future is talking to his dad in the past, but his dad died, right? And then it's like, and then they're talking through, the radio, and then they have to, it's a great movie. It's a great film. And what happens in the talking to his father, he's able to prevent his father's death, which then changes everything kind of in the present. And it's a great film. And it's got I'm not a country fan by any stretch of the imagination, but Garth Brooks' song that plays during the end credits of that movie is a tearjerker for sure. It's a great song. It's a great song and works perfectly with that film. So again, that's not a movie like Frequency it's not like Back to the Future, right? Where it's got, it's Back to the Future it's a great movie, but it's almost self-aware in some ways, not spoofy, but it's almost like it's fun. It's jovial. You know what I mean? And, it's got that energy to it. Back to the Future has that energy to it. Whereas Frequency plays it a little more straight, not quite as straight as the movie I'm going to talk about in a few moments, but it plays it a little more straight. But that's a great movie too, right? There's so many films that utilize the concept of time travel, and because time travel is relatively impossible, like again, we know that we can probably go into the future. We can't come back from the future. Like if I was to travel 20 years in the future, I'm stuck there. Like, it's not like I'm like, okay, I want to go back and see my, dead friends or whatever. No, it's not going to happen. But because it's not, it's relatively impossible to go back and forth on the timeline of time, or on the timeline of time, you can almost do whatever you want, and so there's some films that take massive creative liberties with time travel. And there's many different films that utilize it in many different types of genres as well. I mean, I see people, joking about Hot Tub Time Machine, right? You know what I mean? You can use it in that kind of a movie too, right? You know what I mean? You can use it in a comedy. You can use it in a really philosophical sci-fi sort of way, like almost like, like 2001. If you don't think there's any kind of time travel in 2001, then, you're kidding yourselves, right? Now, it's not a time travel movie per se, but again, that concept of time and where Dave goes, at the end of that film, and how he's suddenly this old man, and, and the rebirth and the reincarnation aspect and all the philosophical sort of deep cerebral concepts of that movie are brilliant and fascinating. And that's a serious film, right? You don't watch that movie for its jovial energy. I mean, Jesus, it's one of the slowest films I've ever seen in my life, but it's fan-fucking-tastic because the bigger picture, the larger themes are so fascinating, at least for me. And the effects in 1968 were fucking off the charts. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So there's so many different types of ways to utilize the concept of time travel. And when I think of like my favorite time travel movies, definitely Back to the Future is in there. Of course, it's got to be in most people's favorite, because again, when you think of time travel films, you think of that kind of movie. Do you know what I mean? Because it transcended pop culture. When a movie like Back to the Future transcends pop culture and becomes part of the zeitgeist, it's what you think of when you think of time travel movies. But there's so many others that are fantastic, that haven't necessarily transcended the pop culture consciousness in the ways that Back to the Future has. And when you go over to IMDb, there's a list of time travel movies. Now it just says list order here. We can sort them by popularity, alphabetical, IMDb rating, your rating. I don't think I've rated anything. Number of votes, release date, runtime, date added, things like that. So I don't know, the list, we'll just stick to the list order here. But again, what they have here, and this will give you an idea of how many movies utilize the concept of time travel in many different types of ways, right? You got The Time Machine, 1960. That's a really good movie, by the way. Back to the Future, again, that's like the quintessential time travel film. The Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Time After Time, Donnie Darko, right? Planet of the Apes. That again is, Planet of the Apes is utilizing more that thing that I was talking about in terms of the theory of relativity, where he's traveling so fast, he travels into the future, but Charlton Heston's character can't then go back. He's stuck there. He's stuck on the planet of the apes, which ironically, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but for fuck's sakes, the film came out in 1968. He's on Earth. He's on Earth because there's that great scene at the end of the movie, right? Where he sees the Statue of Liberty and he's like, no, I'm back. No, God damn you, no. It's fantastic, right? Groundhog Day, again, not what you think of when you think of time travel, but it's utilizing the concept of time. It's playing in that time sandbox, right? So what you consider a time travel movie, again, we tend to think of it as very sort of going forward or backward in time in like a time machine. But there's many different ways you can utilize and play with the concept of time travel. So you have to remember that too. I love Groundhog Day. I absolutely adore that film. Run, Lola, Run, right? Safety Not Guaranteed, Doctor Strange, there you go. Arrival, again, not a film you think of time travel, but if you've seen Arrival, the concept of time is, it's played with. It's played with in there, absolutely, 100%, right? So there's a large spectrum of what a time travel movie is. And I think that we have to keep in mind that For me, I wouldn't necessarily consider Arrival a time travel movie. It's a sci-fi alien film. I don't consider it really a time travel film. Although, when you get to the end of the film, you realize that time travel is a big part of how she's able to actually save the world in some ways. So in that respect, I guess it kind of is, now that I think about it out loud. But a great film. Premiere. Interstellar, of course. 12 Monkeys. La Jetée. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. The Girl Who Leaped Through Time. Well, there you go, right there. The Girl Who Leaped Through Time. Frequency. Time Crimes. Deja Vu. I love this movie. Now, this is obviously, again, a very sort of, this is 2006. Yeah, I remember seeing this in the theater. I really like this movie. It's not like, it's just a fun, just a fun film, right? It's not like deep, cerebral. It's not deep and philosophical necessarily. But it plays in that world, and it's fun to watch how they handle the concept of time. I like that movie. X-Men, Days of Future Past, never seen it. A lot of the superhero films you will see on this list, I've never seen. But Days of Future Past, that's a bit of an oxymoron there. So I guess that, I think that's the right? Oxymoron? Yeah. I think I got that. It kind of is in the title, so I get that. Pleasantville, I have seen that movie. Yep. Edge of Tomorrow, absolutely playing with that. The Philadelphia Experiment, About Time. The Time Traveler's Wife, right? Somewhere in Time. Happy Accidents, Time Bandits, Lucy, Sleeper, Midnight in Paris, Looper, that's a great movie. Rian Johnson should stay away from Star Wars, but he should do more of these types of films. Hot Tub Time Machine, there you go, Frank. There you go. 13 Going on 30. Yeah, again, from a certain point of view, 13 Going on 30 or Big, right? With Tom Hanks. I mean, that's a form of time travel, right? He's not getting into a machine and going somewhere at all. But again, it's playing with that concept of time, right? The Time Machine, Peggy Sue Got Married, Next, Predestination, I guess is how you say that. Predestination. I've heard of the word, but I don't see it too often. The Lake House. The Lake House is a great film, by the way. Yeah, Darren Sansed's Edge of Tomorrow. We just went past that. It's a underrated film. Didn't get the love it deserved. The Lake House, I think, is really good. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Source Code, The Jacket, The Final Countdown, Roger Corman's Frankenstein Unbound, Free Jack. Yeah, The Butterfly Effect, right? And do you know what's fascinating about, yes, Darren Sand says, what was the one with Jake Gyllenhaal on the train? I think that was that Source Code? I think that was Source Code. Yeah. Yeah, Predestination. Yeah, no, I know. I know. Yes, Predestination. Yeah, it looked funky to me at first, and I'm like, oh, no, wait a minute. I think it's Predestination. Yeah, I just didn't go back and say it, but you're right. That is how you say it. That is how you say it. Yeah. Predestination. Yeah, Predestination. I haven't seen that film though, but I have heard of it. Army of Darkness, of course. Time Cop. I mean, there's so many, and that's just 50. That's just 50 here. What is IMDb? What is the most popular one? What do you guys think is the most popular one? What do you guys think is the most popular one? If I go to popularity, what do you think is the most popular time travel film on IMDb? What do you guys say? What do you guys say? Let's see some votes here in the chat. Let's see some votes in the chat. What do you think is, according to IMDb now, okay? This is not the be all and end all of, this is not, this is just IMDb fucking B. What do you think is IMDb most, based on popularity, what do you think? Back to the Future, Back to the Future, Time Machine, Back to the Future. All right, probably Back to the Future. Love the OG Time Machine. Probably Endgame. Never seen Endgame. Back to the Future. I mean, I know what you're talking about. Avengers, Time Machine, all Back to the Future, Back to the Future. So everybody's saying Back to the Future in terms of popularity. Now, this is not according to IMDb rating. This is popularity. Here we go. You guys ready? Here we go. It is... No! Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the most popular on IMDb. So now let's see what, followed by Interstellar. Back to the Future is number 3. Back to the Future is number 3. And then Edge of Tomorrow is 4, and the original Terminator is 5. Fascinating. Let's go to IMDb rating. What do you think is the most popular time travel film on IMDb according to ratings? Ratings. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be the same, Terminator 2? Of course, if you had just paid attention to the rating of Back to the Future, you'd probably know. Because I don't think it is, actually. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. What is it? Do we still think it is Terminator 2 Judgment Day? Now, again, that's popularity. So that might, I don't know how they would determine popularity. Maybe based on reviews, maybe? Clicks on the page? Because it's not based on IMDb rating. Because they have two separate categories. They have popularity, as you can see here. They have popularity, and they have IMDb rating. So I imagine that they decipher them differently. So people are going to say Back to the Future, it's got to be Back to the Future, it's got to be Back to the Future, it's got to be Back to the Future. Okay, well, let's check it out. According to IMDb rating, viewer rating, the most popular time travel movie on IMDb, according to IMDb rating, is Interstellar 2014. Interstellar has the highest IMDb rating. That's what it says, folks. 8.6, Interstellar, followed by Terminator 2 Judgment Day, followed by Back to the Future at 8.5. Now, they both have 8.5, so I would imagine that Terminator 2 Judgment Day has more votes than Back to the Future does. That's probably how they determine that, and that's why that's why Terminator 2 Judgment Day would be higher, because one has more votes, I would imagine. Fascinating. Oh, there you go. And then Terminator, the original, rounds out the top 5. La Jetée, I don't know if I'm saying that right. The story of a man forced to explore his memories in the wake of World War III's devastation, told through still images. Fascinating. Never seen it, never heard of it, but it's only 28 minutes long, so it's a short film. That might be interesting to check out. It's got a great rating. So fascinating. So what else can we check out here? And then I'll get to my favorite. Number of votes. Okay, here we go. The most popular time travel movie on IMDb according to number of votes. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Here we go. It is Interstellar. Remains in the top spot under number of votes, followed by Back to the Future. Oh, so Back to the Future actually has more votes than Terminator 2. I wonder how they... Oh, maybe it's the Metascore. Maybe that's how they put it. Maybe that's why. Maybe they put Terminator 2 ahead of Back to the Future in the IMDb rating scenario because it's got a higher Metascore. Maybe that's probably why. I thought it was maybe because of votes, but no, Back to the Future, according to IMDb, does have more votes than Terminator 2. So fascinating. And then rounding out the top 5 is The Terminator and Donnie Darko. Fascinating stuff, fascinating stuff. So there's so many time travel films out there, right? And like my favorites would definitely be like Frequency, Back to the Future, fuck, what was it called now? What was it called? Hang on. Oh, Planet of the Apes. I love The Time Machine from 1960. I think that's really good. But my favorite time travel film. And again, when I say favorite, I don't mean by a lot. I mean, listen, Back to the Future is Back to the Future. You know what I mean? But I adore this movie. And it takes itself, again, it's dated. Okay, it's an older film. It's older than Back to the Future. But it's such a beautiful story. And I love that it takes itself seriously. And I love the concept of it. I love the concept of how the time travel was achieved. And of course, I'm talking about 1980s Somewhere in Time, starring Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. And Christopher Plummer, Canadian Christopher Plummer, was also in the movie. If you have not seen 1980s Somewhere in Time, it's a love story, first and foremost. And let me just read, I brought up the Wikipedia page for you. Let me go over to the Wikipedia page, and I'm going to show you, first of all, I'm going to go back to the other screen here. And I want to show you, 1 second here. Show you, so this is, oh, I can't do that, can I? Okay, I was going to read you a bit of the plot. Let me just do this 1 second. I want to show, oh, why can't I, do I have to do that maybe? That's why. That's why. I wanted to show you the poster for Somewhere in Time. This is the old school poster. There's several posters, but this is the old school poster for Somewhere in Time. It is and it's directed by, I never get this, I never get the pronunciation of this director correct, but he's the same guy that directed Jaws 2. Okay, Jaws 2. Jeanot Zwark? Jeanot Zwark. I know I'm butchering that name for sure. But this movie, I first saw this film, my mother introduced me to this movie, and I absolutely adore it. 1980, Jane Seymour, Christopher Reeve, Christopher Plummer, Teresa Wright, directed by the guy that directed Jaws 2. I adore this film. If you've not seen this movie, let me read a little bit of the plot to you. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what the film is about, okay? Because it's really, really, really cool. It's really cool. In 1972, college theater student Richard Collier celebrates the debut of his new play. During the celebration, an elderly woman places a pocket watch in his hand and pleads, "Come back to me." Richard does not recognize the woman, who returns to her own residence and dies in her sleep that night. 8 years later, Richard is a successful playwright living in Chicago. While struggling with writer's block, he decides to take a break from writing and travels to a resort, the Grand Hotel, in Michigan, by the way. It really does exist, this place. And this is based on a book, if I'm not mistaken. There are some differences between the book and the film, but I believe this is based on a book. While exploring the hotel's hall history, he becomes enthralled with a vintage photograph of Elise McKenna, a beautiful and famous early 20th century stage actress. Upon further research, he discovers that she is the same woman who gave him the pocket watch. Richard visits Laura Roberts, Elise's former housekeeper and companion. While there, he discovers a music box that plays the 18th variation of Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. I might be butchering that. I'm not too sure, but it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's a famous piece of music. His favorite musical piece. Among Elise's personal effects is a book on time travel written by his old college professor, Dr. Gerard Finney. Richard becomes obsessed with traveling back to 1912 and meeting Elise, with whom he has fallen in love. So what's cool about this is that this is a movie that I don't want to, how they utilize the concept, like he becomes enamored with this woman. Like he's just getting away. He goes to this grand hotel to just get away. Okay. He just needs a break. He's got writer's block. He's not even thinking about this woman at all. And when he goes into this hotel, he walks into this room, and at the back of this room is this beautiful photograph. And listen, I mean, Jane Seymour is gorgeous. All right. I mean, she doesn't need any introduction. Let's be honest. She's a stunning, beautiful woman, still beautiful to this day. And so she's, and of course, this is back in 1980. So she was at the height of her youth, essentially. You know what I mean? So she's beautiful. And she's at the back in this photograph, and he sees it, and he's drawn to it, but he doesn't know why. And he walks over to it, and he's drawn to it, and he keeps going back to it. You know, he gets a room at the hotel, but he keeps going back to it, and he's like, I gotta find out who this woman is. I don't know who this woman is. He's not immediately making the connection that this is the woman, in her 80s or whatever it was that gave him the pocket watch, right? And then, of course, as I just mentioned, through research, he finds out it's the same lady, and it goes on from there. And then he talks to his old college professor who was obsessed with time travel, and time travel, who wrote a book on it. But how Richard utilizes time travel to go back to 1912. It's not like he's getting into a machine. There's no hot tub. There's no phone booth. There's no DeLorean. It's real. I love the way that it's utilized, and it's utilized all through hypnosis and believing that you are actually going to that place. It's a fascinating concept. It might sound weird at first because we're so used to having devices that take us to those destinations, that take us to those locations. But this was all in the mind. And the differences between the book, I haven't watched the movie in a few years, but I remember thinking as I was watching the movie, I love the fact that you're left with wondering, was it really all in his mind, or was he actually there? Do you know what I mean? And there's enough evidence to suggest that he actually was, but how? And how does that work if it's deep? Like, what I love about it is it's utilizing, consciousness and the subconscious. And like in many ways, when we go to sleep at night and when we dream, we are in many ways, that is a form of time travel in some ways, right? Like if we have a dream about being a kid again and about playing on the swing set with our buddies at recess, that's a form of time travel. If you think about it, right? That is a form of time travel. And even though we're not really there, we're lying in our bed, and if somebody was to come up, they'd be able to, to walk in, they'd be able to wake us from that destination. But in some ways, dreaming can be seen as a form of time travel. And although Richard, I don't believe, is dreaming in the movie, the fact that they're utilizing consciousness and meditation and all that is really cool. It's very different than a device, you know what I mean? And it's not a hokey film. I mean, it's a dated film now, obviously, right? It's 1980. So in terms of the production value and everything, but there's not a lot of like effects, it's a beautiful love story about the connection between these two. And it's like watching The Notebook with time travel. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's that kind of thing. And I tell you, man, the first time I watched it, I had the lump in the throat. I was like, because the music is so beautiful too, and the music gets you, and it's a beautiful love. Undoubtedly not just my favorite time travel movie, but my favorite probably love story, and there's a lot of them. I mean, you know, there's a lot of great love stories out there, like a lot of great romance films. But Somewhere in Time, it's like a double whammy. It's not just a love story, it's a time traveling love story. You know, and of course there's a time traveler's wife, and there's other great love stories as well that, you know, involve time travel, of course. But Somewhere in Time, man, it maybe it's because it was one of the first ones I ever saw. It just hit me in a way that was so beautiful. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. I'll just read, well, no, I don't want to read it. Do I want to read you anymore? Or do I want to let you watch it if you haven't seen it? It just says here that yeah, okay, I'm not going to read anymore because I don't want to spoil the movie. But that's essentially what he tries to do, right? That his old college professor believes that it is possible, and the things that Richard does to try and go back to 1912 is based on what his college professor had written about in his book. So he's utilizing those things, but his professor was never able to do it, right? His professor, they have this great conversation. I'll never forget this. It's just so creepy. I'm paraphrasing all this, but they're talking, right, in the hallway or something. And Richard's like, you know, but do you think it worked? Like, you know, like what you tried to do, do you think you were there? Do you think you were there? And his college professor's like, he says something like, for a brief moment, I think I was, you know, and it's just like, wow, like, can you imagine? Like, if that was real, being on the doorstep of something so wild like that, like you actually, for just a brief moment, you were on the threshold of actually being in that other place, like a dream, you know, like it's fucking awesome. And of course, Richard's able to actually do it. And, you know, well, we know where this is going to go. It's not he actually is able to do it, obviously, and go beyond what his college professor was able to do, which is really cool, because he believed, he wanted it so bad. There was this draw to this woman. And listen, I mean, most heterosexual men, I think, would be drawn to Jane Seymour. Let's be honest here, right? I think I'd be drawn to her too, but just so... but there was more than that, right? It wasn't just her beauty. It wasn't just that she's beautiful. There was a deeper attraction. There was almost a otherworldly, I know you. I know who you are. I can't explain it. I can't quantify it. I don't know how to intellectualize it. It's just a feeling. I know you. I need to find out who you are. I know you, you know, and it's that deep-seated draw. It's that obsession. He becomes obsessed, you know, that is able to propel him back to that time to discover who this woman is. Guys, if you haven't seen Somewhere in Time, you have got to see Somewhere in Time. It's a great film. Again, directed by the guy that directed Jaws 2, which is crazy because they're two completely different ends of the spectrum. But a fantastic movie and a great movie to watch with men, husbands in the chat. Great movie to watch with your significant other on Valentine's Day or maybe just a nice romantic evening, anniversary maybe or something like that. I think most women would appreciate a movie like this. I mean, maybe not. I don't know about, you know, if you're a teenager, but most adult women, I think would appreciate a film like this because it's a beautiful love story too. And listen, I appreciate it. I mean, listen. You know, there's the stereotype that women are more into the romance, lovey-dovey stuff than men. But listen, we're all human. We all want love. We all want to be loved and to be in love. And you know, it's a big part of the human experience. And so I have no issues saying that I loved The Notebook. I thought it was a great film. I didn't say I loved The Notebook. I mean, I liked The Notebook, I should say. When I say love, I reserve that for certain type of movies. What I mean is that I have no issue saying I thought it was a great movie, you know, and I got a bit of a lump in my throat too at the end of that film, you know. A good movie's a good movie, whether it's a chick flick, whether it's an action movie, a good movie is a good movie, a good story is a good story. And if you can pull on the heartstrings, you know, with your audience, no matter what sex you are, then you've done your job. And I think that Somewhere in Time is one of those movies for me. I think it's a great film. And 1980, Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer. I mean, great cast, great supporting cast. You've got to watch this film. You've got to watch this film. Somewhere in Time is probably my favorite time travel movie. Again, it takes itself seriously. The concept of how he travels from the present to the past is fascinating. What ends up happening, the questions you ask yourself, like, did he really go there? Was this just a dream? Was he really there? Or did he just, you know, convince himself he was there, convinced his subconscious that he was there, so that when he fell asleep, you know, while through meditation, it was already planted into his subconscious. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's that, although they don't, you know, I think it is safe to say that he did go, but that little bit of seed of doubt is planted there, and that's really cool. I really, really like that. So yeah, that's my favorite time travel film. I mean, my top 5 would probably be in no particular order other than Somewhere in Time. Like, it's probably Frequency, you know, Back to the Future, Planet of the Apes, maybe Groundhog Day, and then of course Somewhere in Time, you know, but there's so many others. Like, there's so many other great ones as well. If you're watching after the fact, folks, comment below and let me know your favorite time travel movie. What is your favorite time travel movie and why? And don't be afraid to expand out beyond the threshold of what a stereotypical time travel movie is. When we think of time travel, we tend to think of, you know, Back to the Future, you know, where somebody has a device or a DeLorean, a phone booth, a spaceship, right? There's other concepts out there in terms of how time travel is handled. So explore, you know, watch all different kinds of movies, and how they utilize the concept of time travel, because it's really fascinating. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below on what your favorite is. And again, if you have not seen Somewhere in Time, watch it. I think you will really enjoy it. Again, I mean, it's a dated movie. It's 1980. But if you like old movies, you know, if you like old horror movies, you should like older movies. I think it's a crime today, although I do understand it. I'm just gonna have a piece of gum. I think it's a crime today that I do understand it. I do. But I think it's a crime that a lot of older films from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s don't get watched enough today. There are a lot of people that have this adverse sort of reaction to anything like 1985 and back. You know what I mean? And I get it. Look, I mean, if you're 15 years old, I mean, look, you know, if you think about it, for a 15-year-old, when I was 15, it was 1994, right? So somebody watching The Goonies today who's 15, I mean, The Goonies is 36 years old. In 1994, right? 36 years before 1994 would have been what, 1958? So that would be like trying to get me into a movie from 1958. Do you know? No. Yeah. I think I'm right. My math might be off on that. I'm trying to do it in my head. You know what I mean? Think about that, right? So, like, I get there's a production quality difference. There's an acting difference, you know, but the stories can be so great. Like, you know, oh my God. Some of these, there's just so many really good stories out there, you know. Like I said, one of my favorite horror movies from the 1960s, not Psycho. You know, when you say horror, 1960s, people go, Psycho. It's like, yeah, but there's some other great horror, and I put horror in quotes because obviously it's not the horror we know today. But there's some great horror movies from that time period, you know. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? I talk about that a lot on this channel. Love that movie. Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, fucking great. Sunset Boulevard. You know, there's so many others. What was that one? Was it called Gaslighting? Was it called Gaslighting? Gaslight, 1944. Yeah. The movie Gaslight from 1944, starring Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer. Great film. Angela Lansbury is in it. It was released in May 1944. That's a great movie. Gaslighting. It's a psychological thriller. Again, a 1944 psychological thriller. But but the stories are so good, and the mood is so good, because a lot of these older films are in black and white. You know what I mean? So they have, even though not all of them are film noir, sometimes there's a film noir-ness to them, you know, because of how old they are and the use of light and shadow, and you know, just it was all about just putting a camera on sticks and just kind of, you know, the shots being really letting the shots to breathe, and the sets were great. The acting was great. The acting is very stage, because of course that's where acting comes from. So you'll notice in earlier motion pictures, like from the 20s, when talkies became a thing, you'll notice, especially films in the late 20s, 30s, 40s, the reason why the acting seems very theatrical and very stage-like is because that's where acting comes from. Acting comes from the theater. So it was only through the course of the decades that acting in film and television started to become more nuanced and more sort of natural, or, you know, realistic, if you will, and not so frankly, dear, I don't give a damn, or whatever. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, I think is what he says, right? You know, it became less stage-like and more nuanced, but I mean, they're great stories and just so beautifully shot, some of those old films. So you got to watch those old films, man. Anyways, Somewhere in Time is not that old. It's 1980, but certainly there's a separation there, especially if you're young. But I'm telling you, man, love it. Somewhere in Time. So yeah, if you're watching after the fact, or if you're in the chat room right now after the show is done and is up, by all means, comment below in the chat, in the comments section, and let me know what your favorite time travel movie is and why. I would really like to know and see what you guys come up with. I would like to know. Let's see what the chat room is saying. Let's go over to, am I going to miss your super chats? I probably am. Let me go over to, I'm not going to miss it, but I'm going to go over to the, let me go over to here and go to, oh, that's why. And go to here. I just got to pick up the super chats. Okay. Chris Parrish sends in $1.99. Thank you, Chris. Says, brand new father here. Congratulations, Chris. Boy or girl? BTF, of course, is my fave. Oh, sorry, BTTF is my fave. Back to the Future. Yeah, I mean, Back to the Future is the quintessential time traveling movie because it's got everything for everybody. That's the thing about it is that it's a populist film, right? So it's a movie that's going to do well at the box office. It's a movie that's going to do well with the general movie-going audience, with most people. Most people are going to be able to identify with it. Most people are going to enjoy it because it's got action, it's got mystery, it's got adventure, it's got special effects, it's got, again, romance, although awkward. It's fun, right? It's Spielberg. Although I understand it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, but you can feel the Spielbergian, fingerprints on that film, like you can a lot of the movies that he produced in the 1980s, whether it's The Goonies, whether it's Gremlins, whether it's, Poltergeist. Well, that's a bit of a different thing, but, so yeah, no, absolutely. Todd Fayer sends in $5, says, Dave, did you see Interstellar? I did. I saw it in the theater when it came out in 2014. And I did not like Interstellar. The thing that I find I love Christopher Nolan movies because he's a very, I enjoy his movies because his movies are very high concept. They're very cerebral, whether it's Interstellar, whether it's, Inception. I think my favorite Nolan film is actually Insomnia, a movie that doesn't get talked about a lot. That's with Robin Williams and Al Pacino, and Hilary Swank, I think, is in that as well. I adore that movie. But I find Nolan, that movie aside, because that movie was a bit of a different beast, but I find in his high concept films, Tenet, Interstellar, Inception, I don't give a fuck about the characters. The acting is great, but I just don't find that he develops character. I don't care. They're very sort of, I think it's because the concepts are so deep. He just doesn't have time to make me care about his character. I loved Interstellar's concept. Loved it. And that deals with the theory of relativity, right? That deals with what we're talking about, how you can go into the future, but you can't come back. Like when Matthew McConaughey and what's her face there, Anne Hathaway, they go down to the planet, right? But because of the gravity or whatever, they can only be down there for a certain amount of time, or many years are going to pass on the ship or whatever it is. And it sounds crazy, but that is how it works. I mean, they might have taken a little creative liberty maybe with that. I'm not sure, but that is generally how it works. So I love that concept where they get back to the ship and like 50 years had passed. And it's like, holy fuck, are you kidding me? And they've only aged like, 20 minutes. I love that because that is provable. That's, but it's not like Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway can then somehow reverse that and go, oh shit, okay, well, you know what? We'll get back on our little ship here. And they can't. It's done. It's done. So that's crazy. Like, I love all that, but I didn't really care about the characters. Now, for those of you that don't know, not like I didn't find them awful or anything. I just find that in Nolan movies, they're very high concept, but I never find myself, again, I shouldn't say I don't give a fuck about the characters. It's not like, but I find that walking out of a Nolan movie, I never find myself feeling any sort of real attachment to the characters. It's all about the concepts. It's all about the big cerebral high concept. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's fine. But with Interstellar, for those of you that don't know, Steven Spielberg, excuse me, spitting on my mic here. Steven Spielberg was initially attached to direct Interstellar. And I would have loved to have seen a Spielberg Interstellar. Now, Spielberg is, again, it's catch-22, right? Would Spielberg have gone as deep and been as cerebral as maybe Nolan went? Maybe not. Maybe that's sort of the sacrifice you make. But I think I would have cared more about the characters in Interstellar. I think Spielberg is a better director when it comes to characters. And making us feel, pulling on our heartstrings and making us feel the no pun intended, the gravity and the weight of the issue at hand and what we're dealing with. But then again, you look at AI, which was a Kubrick concept, but Spielberg directed. That was quite dark and that was cerebral in its own right. I think Spielberg can go there. I really do. I think Spielberg can go there. I just think he chooses not to. Maybe he goes to a certain point and then he wants to make it, again, for a general movie-going audience, which he's very good at doing. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time for that. He changed the face of cinema because of that. He's my favorite director because of that. So I would say maybe that would have been the case. I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with it, though. I like Nolan, I do, and I like that he goes big. He goes bold. He plays in a very big, bold sandbox. But I just don't really care about his characters that much, But anyway. Inception has great characters, says Amstel54. Cobb, Tom Hardy, other great actors. Sure. But I didn't walk away from Inception feeling, I didn't really care about, they're great actors. I'm not talking about they're not great performances. They're not great actors. I'm not saying that the acting is bad. I'm not saying that the characters are bad. The characters aren't bad. I just find the characters, when I say that Nolan isn't great with characters, I mean that they're just very sort of like two-dimensional characters. I don't particularly find them, Inception's a bit, like Inception is probably his best example of attach probably his best example of a big concept with characters that are actually pretty good in terms of feeling something for them a little bit. But Dunkirk, I didn't feel much with in terms of the characters. Tenet, nothing. Interstellar, not really. You know, it's more about the concepts. It's more about the concepts, this big, bold concepts, and let's get these serviceable characters played by good actors, and then that'll be fine. But let's focus on the big. That's what I find. That's what I find with most of his films. Most of his films. But I'm not saying he's a bad director. I'm just saying that I'm waiting for the moment where and I'm not the only one that feels that way either. I've heard other people say that. Yeah, he's great with concepts, but I don't really walk away feeling the characters, you know? So I know I'm not alone in that regard. Reese Wilson says this. Oh, did I get all the super chats by the? No, I didn't. I was going on there. Let me get, where is it? Where are you? There we go. Modern Script Production sends in $5. Thank you, Modern Script Productions. Says, I love this movie and the poster and soundtrack are amazing. What movie are you talking about? You're talking about Somewhere in Time. Yes, the theme of Paganini, I think that's how you say that. Paganini, maybe, is one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard. Oh, it's beautiful. The music alone can pull on your heartstrings, dude. Like it's beautiful. I absolutely agree in that 100%. Make sure I'm getting, Frank Riker sends in $5. Says, for me, I can always watch Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. It's just fun. Yeah. That's a time, traveling film for sure. And one that I haven't seen. I haven't seen that movie in a while. I've seen them all, but not in a while. I remember seeing The Undiscovered Country. Was that part 6 in the theater when that came out? Movie Chat and More sends in £5. Says, hi, Dave. My favorite time travel movies are Friday 2 to 4, all set in 84, 5 years after 1980. If that's not time travel, then what is? Couldn't help myself. Yeah, the Friday the 13th time travel or the Friday the 13th continuity is definitely up for debate. There's no doubt about that. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, have you seen Stealing Home with Mark Harmon and Jodie Foster? My favorite romance chick flick tearjerker movie. No, I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. Oh, another film that I absolutely love that plays with the concept of time. I actually like this movie better than Interstellar. I like this movie better than Interstellar. And that is 1997's Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. Now, again, that's not a time travel movie per se, but it does, you know, especially at the end there, it plays with those concepts a bit, right? Do you know what I'm saying? It plays with that concept. Did she go there? Did she not go there? There's like 8 hours of snow on the fucking tape, but she was only gone for like, 5 minutes or instantaneous. I think it was instantaneous or something like that, right? I love that kind of stuff. And I found myself, again, that was directed by Robert Zemeckis. I found myself caring more about the characters. I cared more about Jodie Foster. But then again, I love the concept more. I love that it was, I think one of the things with Interstellar too that didn't, and again, when you're dealing with this level of a gigantic concept and you want to focus all your energy and time on the big picture in terms of the concept and what it all means, I understand that you kind of have to get to the point fairly quick. And I found that we kind of just were all of a sudden there. Like we were thrust into this semi-dystopian world and we didn't really know what happened. We kind of did through conversation. Then all of a sudden they're out for a drive and then they're in the space shuttle and he's already in space. Like I just didn't care. I wanted more of a build-up. I wanted more of a more character development, I guess I should say. And with Contact from 1997, I think it was 97, I found that I love that we spent most of our time in the real world. I love that they used presidential press conferences, real presidential press conferences from Bill Clinton at the time, who was president. but they cut around what he was actually talking about. He was actually he was talking about some foreign policy or something, but they made it look like he was talking about what was going on in the movie, which was really cool. Gave it a real sense of, authenticity to it. I adore Contact. I like that movie, and I like the big picture and what it all means and how it ends on sort of an ambiguous, bigger picture, leaving it up to the audience, right? Leaving it, then turning it on to the audience for us to talk about what we think it all means, right? I love that. Love that. So I don't know if I would consider Contact a time travel movie, even though it does deal with that concept of time, but definitely I'd throw it in there. I mean, it's one of my favorites for sure. Just awesome shit. Awesome shit. Reese Wilson sends in, I would fix those typos. Oh, thank you, Reese. Oh, you're talking about the one before that. Oh, Reese, you didn't have to do that. I totally understood. But thank you very much for the Australian $22.99 Australian dollars. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I think that works out to about $10 Canadian, maybe something like that. I don't know. What is that? Let me see. I'm not even sure. What is that? No, it's actually $20 Canadian. I thought it was lower than that. So we're relatively on par. Thank you, Reese. You certainly didn't have to do that, man. I got what you were saying. But I appreciate it nonetheless from a fellow Indiana Jones fan. I love your little avatar there. I'm so excited. And by the way, Reese, I put in my order for the Streets of Cairo hat, and I put it in, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's going to take, a couple of months, obviously, because they have to make it and have to ship it here and whatnot, but I cannot wait to get it. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be fun. I will definitely show it off when it comes in. Excuse me. Chris Baber sends in $4.99 and says, I love Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell, 1979. Time After Time. The only Time After Time I know is Cyndi Lauper. Time After Time. 1979. Time After Time. 1979. There it is. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Malcolm McDowell. Mary Steenburgen. Or Bergen. However you pronounce it. I like her. Very cool. What is this? Oh, maybe I have. You know what? Maybe I have heard of this. H.G. Wells pursues Jack the Ripper. Yes, I have heard of this. To the 20th century when the serial murderer uses the future writer's time machine to escape his time period. Very cool. I haven't seen it though, but I have heard of it. Yeah, that definitely. Now, again, that's utilizing a time machine, right? So that's pretty cool too. Time machines are definitely cool to utilize for sure. But when you watch Somewhere in Time, if you haven't seen it, when you watch Somewhere in Time, I just love that it feels just more real because time machines don't exist, right? Time machines do not exist unless you are in like I said, a spaceship of some sort that can go, the speed of light. The speed of light. I love the concept of having it in your mind, consciousness, believing that you will go there, believing that you are there. I love that. And then are you really there then? Yeah, I love that. I love that shit. So great. Movie Chat and More sends in £5 and says, recently purchased the NECA Jason 6 and Halloween 2 figures. Myers actually comes with a bleeding eyes, head, and a Ben Tramer 1-2. Have you seen it? I have seen them, yes. If they've been out for a while now, I have seen them, yes. I've definitely seen them. Pretty cool stuff. NECA produces some pretty cool figures for sure. That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, Jason 6 and Halloween 2 figures. I have a NECA Jason 3 figure, and I have a NECA Freddy 2 figure, which I really like. So I like those a lot. Let's see here. What else we got going on? Warren Armour says, I think if we tried hard enough, scientists could produce time travel. I mean, we cloned human beings. It's a little bit different. I disagree. Cloning is about using DNA, right? And genes and there's a time travel is different. again, we know that we can go into the future, but it's going, what it is what is, when people talk about time travel, they talk about like time travel and Back to the Future. Like that's what the average person thinks of or means. I wonder if time travel will be possible. So they think of, oh, I wonder if I'll be able to get into a ship, boop, 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 and then open up, and then it's 1982, and then get back in my ship, boop, 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 and come back to the year 2021. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because it's not, you like, time is linear, you know, and although that can be used as an argument to say, yeah, time is linear, so we should be able to go back but I don't think going into the future, yes, it's coming back that is difficult. That's impossible. I tend to believe that I think, and I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm wrong, but I tend to think that we will discover an alternate dimension before we discover any ability to be able to travel through and back from time itself. I don't think will be possible. I think we'll discover like that there are parallel universes before we discovered, and in some ways then is that a form of time travel? Do you know what another really great movie is? I really enjoyed this film. It's an independent film that came out in 2014, I think. It's a little independent film called Another Earth. Have you guys heard of this? Another Earth? Have you heard of time travel? Another Earth? Let me know if you've heard that. Let me know if you've heard of the movie Another Earth. I think it's a great concept, independent film. And if you guys have not, no, 2011, I probably saw it in 2014 then. 2011 says Another Earth is an American independent science fiction drama film directed by Mike Cahill and starring Britt Marling. You guys know Britt Marling from the OA and from Netflix. And it essentially is, well, I don't want to give anything away, but it deals with that concept that scientists have discovered another Earth, and it's fascinating. It's a really cool movie. Again, not a lot of effects, not a lot. It's the concepts. It's the big picture philosophical questions that are asked in Another Earth that I love. Unimpressive Media says, yeah, I remember it. Oliver Mercer says, I've heard of it, but haven't seen it. Bobby's brother says, Another Earth was one of the finest highlights in recent years, and Britt Marling is fascinating. Yeah, Another Earth was great. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Again, it deals with the concept of time, because time can mean many different things, right? So it deals with the concept of time, but it really deals with like almost like a parallel universe. Like there is another Earth that they've discovered that is, you know, basically you can see it in our atmosphere like you see the moon. It's crazy shit. And really well done independent film. I don't own it, and because it's very difficult to get. I think I saw it for sale once. It was like $40 or something, and I was like, I'm not paying $40 for a fucking. Are you crazy? Something dumb like that. So I never ended up getting it, but I maybe it's come down in price now. I'll have to check again. I'll check Amazon, see if I can get it. But I adore that film. Adore it. Again, I gotta watch my hyperbole. I really like that movie. I think it's a great concept as well. So I recommend that one. Another Earth, Somewhere in Time. If you guys haven't seen either of those movies, Another Earth, Somewhere in Time, I recommend it. Watch it. It's good shit. It's good shit. What do we got here? How much time we got left in the show? We got about 20 minutes left in the show. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see here. Barry Kicks Ass says, all time travel movies are interesting to me. Well, though, yeah, I mean, yeah, well, it's the concept, right? Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I love that movie. Time Cop. I think I might have even seen Time Cop. I might have even seen Time Cop in the theater when it came out. Although I'm not 100% sure, but I might have seen it in the theater. I'm not sure. Yeah, I tend to really like, I think what I really adore about Another Earth and, again, adore, there I use that term. What I really like about Another Earth, I do adore Somewhere in Time. But really, what I really like about those movies and 2001 and Contact is, and why I don't, and it's not like I can't have, I mean, I've seen Edge of Tomorrow. I've seen, like, I mean, I can have fun in science fiction, heavy sci-fi, like heavy on the sci-fi, time travel movies, like heavy in the science fiction, like Terminator and, you know, robots and all that, like heavy effects, sci-fi, time travel movies. I can have fun with those too. But I really like the more grounded, real world feel of Somewhere in Time, Another Earth, Contact, because it feels real. Like it feels like this is how it would be. You know, this is how it would be. Maybe this is how it is achieved. You know, so there's a certain level, there's not, you know, it's not John Connor coming from the future and robots and and all this stuff and explosions and flying machines. And, you know, it's again, it's not that there isn't a place for that. I adore those movies just as much as the next person. I got to stop using the word adore. But I do like those films just as much as the next person. I do. I love Terminator 2. I love the first Terminator. I like those movies too. And films like it. I like them. But I like films that feel real, that feel like it's happening today, like it would happen right now. You know what I mean? Like things are, I like that. And I think that's why I gravitate towards the more like frequency, like the more grounded, real world kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of great shit out there. A lot of great stuff out there. Rick Baker says, "Hi Dave, Time After Time is a true classic. Jack the Ripper adapting to modern society illustrates how little evil changes through the ages. Check it out." Definitely going to check it out because it sounds like it would have those philosophical themes to it. You know what I mean? About society and would have something to say. So definitely going to check that out. And I love Malcolm McDowell. I met Malcolm McDowell. I actually have his oh, it's out in the hall. That's where it is. I have his autograph on a picture of him from A Clockwork Orange. I met him at in 2015, I think, at Fan Expo here in Toronto. And he was a cool guy. He was a nice guy. Seems like it felt like I was meeting Dr. Loomis for Rob Zombie's Halloween. That's kind of like what it was like. He was great. Bobby's brother says, Another Earth is beautiful and melancholic. I agree. Slowly unfolding, which gives it so much atmosphere, quite similar to Kubrick's 2001s in those terms. I agree with you. And again, that's that slow burn. Like it feels very real, right? Very sort of nuanced, slow burn. There's not a lot of, you know, it feels like it's happening now. Like it feels like it's a real world thing. It's plausible. And I, as an audience, then can identify with that. Like, I'm like, wow, can you imagine this actually happening? I love shit like that. So I agree. I agree with what you're saying. And when you wrap that in like bigger themes and like, that's what I loved about Signs, the movie Signs. I know it's not a time travel film. It's a UFO movie. M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, I really liked until the last 15 minutes of the movie when they're beating the shit out of an alien with a baseball bat. I fucking hated it. I fucking hated how Signs ended. I loathe how that movie ended. But everything up to that point was nuanced, right? Felt very kind of real world. I mean, it was a little, you know, there was a little kind of hokey, few little things, but it felt like it wasn't, it felt legit, like that scene when they're watching, you know, the kid's birthday party or whatever, and that alien, you know, it feels, there was a a feeling of authenticity to it. Like this is how it would be, right? Like it felt kind of grounded, you know, not so like Mars Attacks or something, you know, or Independence Day, right? It felt very sort of like maybe this is plausible. Like maybe this is how it would be. Or, you know, I mean, it's a horror movie first and foremost, so there's definitely that angle to it. And the aliens are bad and okay. But I was invested. I was in it. I was in it up until that point where I'm like, oh, it just feels cheap. Now we're beating the shit out of aliens with, like, I get the connection. I don't think it didn't come out of nowhere. I get the connection and the foreshadowing with the bat and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just like, I didn't like it. It's a creative decision I would not have made, you know? It felt very Hollywood doing what Hollywood does. So, you know, but, I liked Signs up until the last like 15 minutes and I thought it was dog shit. We still on here? Yeah, we're still on. Give me a few problems. I think we're still on though. Let me know if I've conked out on you, but I think we're still on. Movie Chat and More sends in another £2 and says, so would Cocoon count as time travel? I think so. I think Cocoon could count as time travel in some sort of way, right? It's interesting. It's interesting. It would be in that realm of like, you know, Another Earth or Contact. Like it would be in there, you know, like a subsidiary, you know, a subgenre of what time travel, you know, like what time travel is. Because again, when we think of like, it's such a spectrum, right? You can have time travel, you know, like Back to the Future, where you're traveling through time back and forth, or you can utilize the concept of time in and of itself and more of the larger philosophical concepts of time and what time means and, you know, whether it's linear or not or whether, you know, all this stuff and utilize that as a plot device. But you're not necessarily traveling through time back and forth. Maybe you're being visited by, you know, aliens who've used wormholes and which is travel, you know what I mean? So there's many different types of layers to what a time travel movie can be. But I think Cocoon would probably, I think Cocoon would be in there. I wouldn't see why not. That'd be all right. Harry Hagen sends in $5. Harry, my man, says, have you seen Time Crimes and Triangle? I've never heard of it. Both films, I've never heard of them, excuse me. Both films combine slasher and time loops. TC has an H4 Myers bandage look and Triangle has a sackhead Jason look. Never heard of either of these films, so I will have to look them up. I have to look them up. I'm always down for something that I have not heard of or have not seen, so I definitely will check that out. Thank you, Harry, for the suggestion. Time Crimes and Triangle. I have not heard of them. JDead00 says, I just got here. Not sure if anybody mentioned Primer, but that movie changed my way of thinking how time travel can affect us. I've not heard of Primer, so I have not seen it. I don't believe I've seen it, so I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out. Again, when I watch a time travel movie, I tend to gravitate towards, like I said, the more realistic stuff, not necessarily the horror stuff. But I'm down with watching those films because I haven't seen them. I've never heard of them. Next Gen Studio says, hey Dave, do you think there will be a Jaws reboot, Halloween 2018 style, possibly for the 50th anniversary? If not, maybe even a Quint spinoff series? No, I do not. Warren Armor, Tony Moran, The Alien in Signs, only 2 seconds of screen time. It's true. It's true. Johnny Melancholy says, I have a good one, Dave. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. When Homer builds a time-traveling toaster, he sneezes on a dinosaur and they all drop dead. Whoops. I've only seen a handful of Simpsons episodes. I'm not really a Simpsons fan. I'm not a Simpsons fan. Like, if you ever hear me say things like, I'm not a superhero fan, or I'm not a Simpsons fan, or I'm not a, I'm not a Leprechaun fan or whatever. That's not me saying I don't like those things. That's me saying that for whatever reason, I never was invested into those things. Like I didn't grow up with comics or superhero. I didn't watch the cartoons and things like that. You guys know, it doesn't mean that if I don't sit down and watch Doctor Strange, I'm not going to enjoy it. Yeah, I'll probably really like it. But I don't care enough about superheroes to invest my time, right? It's like most people who've never seen Star Wars, who don't care about it, could probably sit down and watch and be like, yeah, that was fun. But they don't care. They're not invested. There's no emotional attachment. They don't care, so they don't bother. You know what I mean? Just think of something in your life that is popular, but maybe not be popular for you because you just don't care. It's not that you're saying it's bad. You just didn't grow up with it. You didn't grow up caring about it. You didn't read the books, the comics, the video game, whatever it is. So you don't already have an attachment to it. So that's what I mean. If I don't like something and I think something's crap, you'll always hear me say, I think this is crap. So with superhero films and, what was the other one? Superhero films and The Simpsons. I just don't care about them. I never grew up with them. But my girlfriend, who did grow up with The Simpsons, she got me to watch I think we were watching a bunch of Simpsons episodes, and they're funny. They're fun. Like I can appreciate it. You know what I mean? But it's not enough for me to suddenly now go back and watch all the Simpsons episodes. I appreciate it for what it is. You know what I mean? But I know there's a lot of Simpsons fans out there. Like I don't know the episode that, you're talking about. Now I do, on the other hand, adore Family Guy. I love Family Guy. I did get into that when I was in my early 20s. I got into Family Guy because I just think it's so non-PC, off the wall amazingness. So I did get into that. So if you were to talk to me about Family Guy episodes, I'd probably be able to know which ones you're talking about. But Simpsons, but that sounds funny though. That still sounds funny. And I think I said this to my girlfriend as well. The guy that is it Simpsons' neighbor that's Ned Flanders? Is that who the Simpsons' neighbor is? Ned Flanders? Chat room, help me out. Is Ned Flanders the Christian neighbor who's got the big mustache and the glasses? Is that Ned Flanders? Or am I thinking of something else? Who is that guy? I'm probably completely wrong on this. I don't know why I don't know these names very well. Yep. Johnny Melancholy says, yep. Okay. Well, whenever I see that guy, whenever I see that character, Ned Flanders, I always think he looks like William H. Macy. I always think he looks like William H. Macy. Am I the only one that thinks Ned Flanders looks like William H. Macy? So whenever my girlfriend and I are watching like an episode of Family Guy, The Simpsons, and he comes on screen, my first thought is, it's William H. Macy. It's William H. Macy. I think he looks like William H. Macy. It's kind of funny. Destiny Faulkner says, Bob's Burgers. I have not seen an episode of Bob's Burgers. No, I know the show you're talking about, but I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. So I'd have to sit down and actually watch it, but I don't watch a lot of television. I don't watch a lot. I really don't. I tend to watch more like just other shit. There aren't really any shows I watch. And, unless it's Family Guy, or something like that. But I should watch more, but I just don't. I just haven't. Dave Bob Petway says, Stewie has a time machine. That he does. A few time travel episodes in Family Guy. A few. There's more than a few time travel. One of the best Family Guy episodes was that one where they, what the fuck was the episode called? The one where they go back, Theory of the Universe? No, what was it called? The one where they travel through time and they appear as different. They appear animated differently. Like there's, how they're animated like a Disney cartoon, and then they're animated like, anime or something. What the fuck was that called? That episode. That's a fucking hilarious episode. That's a great episode. There's a name for that episode. I think Universe is in it or something. What is it called? Chat room's going to tell me. I'm going to look it up. Family Guy. Road to the Universe. Road to the Multiverse. That's what it was called. Road to the Multiverse. That's what it's called. So the episode of Family Guy that's called Road to the Multiverse, fucking great. Fucking great episode. There's a lot of great episodes. I will laugh out loud most times when I watch Family Guy. Now, I haven't watched Family Guy in a little bit. I don't know if this new era that we're in is affecting them and how they write certain jokes. I hope it's not, because one of the great things about Family Guy was they, kicked ass, took names, and didn't apologize. There's some real, one of my favorite songs is, I'm just a prom night dumpster baby. I got no mom or dad. And there's these babies swinging their umbilical cords. I mean, how, that had to have offended somebody. A prom night dumpster baby. I'm telling you, in some of those earlier fucking Broadway show type songs, you couldn't do it now. So I don't know how much it's affecting the show now. I haven't watched it in a little bit. I have to brush up on it. But I've watched most of the seasons. They're on 19 season now? I think I've watched this. I think I've only not watched maybe the last 2 seasons. Not because I don't enjoy it, just because I haven't watched it. But I can't wait to, I fucking love it. I'm just a prom night dumpster baby. Prom night dumpster baby. Fucking hilarious. Fucking love that. So stupid. I'm just I love it. I love it. Oliver Mercer says, yeah, I can see that about Ned and William. If you remember the neighbor from Jingle All the Way, he actually reminds me of Ned. The neighbor, you mean played by Phil Hartman? Yeah, I guess so. Not in looks, but maybe in sort of kind of being a nuisance. I can see that. But yeah, Ned Flanders for me, folks, is William H. Macy. Johnny Melancholy says, Dave, you like Beavis and Butthead? No, I never got into Beavis and Butthead. I thought they were just, I just was dumb. I just was like, I don't want to watch this. This is garbage. Maybe if I smoked a lot of pot and I was one of those, if I was one of those guys, maybe, one of those guys was like one of those guys in high school, and we had a lot of them. I mean, every high school had them. Then maybe I would have really been into Beavis and Butthead, but I just thought Beavis and Butthead was, for lack of remaining PC, dumb. I'll just say that. I never really got into it. I don't think they're bad or anything. I just at that time when they sprung onto the scene in the early 90s, I was primed for that. I was the demographic, but I just was like, I watched one episode and I was like, it just seems, I just couldn't get into their characters. I just thought it was too silly, just too dumb. I don't know. But that's me. That's just me. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me here on episode 189 of McRae Live. Thank you to my amazing moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber, for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in today. Oh, I think there was one I missed. Movie Chat and More sent in £2 and said, what about the Langoliers, Dave? Now, I haven't seen the Langoliers since the early 90s. I remember really liking it. I'd have to watch it again. Whether it's one of my favorites, I don't know. I have to revisit it. But that definitely is a good, again, time travel, another dimension kind of film based on a Stephen King story. So yeah, that was good. I really enjoyed that. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. To the super chat questions, the non-super chat questions. This was a fun show. It's a show I've been wanting to do for a while and talk about time travel movies and your favorite time travel films. So please comment below in the comment section below and let me know what your favorite time travel movie is and why it's your favorite time travel movie. What is it about it that you really like, that really gets you, say, over something else? Say maybe your favorite time travel movie is, The Time Machine or The Time Traveler's Wife. Well, what is it about that time travel movie that you like better than Back to the Future? Or maybe some of the more popular, go-tos, right? Do you know what I mean? Don't just tell me what's your favorite. Tell me why it's your favorite. I would really like to know. I think it would be awesome. Folks, I should be back tomorrow. As far as I know, it's possible I may not, but I should be. And in the meantime, in between time, have a great day. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Stay safe out there. And I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty. Cheers.